During the deadly heatwave, my husband kept pretending to be detached, selfless, and above every conflict. I fought desperately to secure 2 tickets to the safe zone, but he gave them away to a mother, saying that in the end times, children are the future. To get another ticket, I was beaten and lost hearing in one ear. I felt wronged, but he said, "You only lost your hearing, but the thief whose ticket you took lost his life." On the way to the safe zone, a gang of thugs, driven by lust, tried to assault me, but he turned a blind eye. I was stabbed 7 times and killed 3 in self-defense. He looked at the bodies on the ground and said sorrowfully, "They were clearly no match for you. Why did you have to kill them?" After reaching the safe zone, I was reported for harming civilians. I begged my husband to testify for me. He said, "If you're innocent, the truth will eventually come out. No one would accuse you without a reason." Subsequently, I was thrown into prison and tortured to death by 10 criminals. Relying on the reputation he had built along the way, he married the daughter of a powerful official in the safe zone and reached the pinnacle of his life. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of the ticket grab. The sun hung high in the sky, and the air radiated a terrifying wave of heat. On the ground lay 7 or 8 men, their faces bruised and swollen, crying out in pain. I fought desperately to take down the last man, covered in blood as I limped over to their leader. "Hand it over." Trembling like a leaf, he handed me the ticket in his hand. In the scorching apocalypse, the strong preyed on the weak. I ended up with a husband who always pretended to be detached and above competition. To keep him alive, I buried the kind and gentle version of myself and became a fearsome she-devil. My husband, who had been hiding behind the crowd, stepped forward and looked at me with disappointment. "Xiaoyu, times are tough now. They just want to survive. It's only a ticket, did you have to beat them up like this?" Hearing those familiar words, I froze, staring at my husband's face, so detached from fame and fortune yet full of righteousness. Memories from my past life flooded back to me. My husband and I grew up in the same village. He was a top student and had always been the role model every younger child in the village admired. My family was poor, so after finishing junior high school, I joined the military. After 8 years of service, I was discharged and assigned to be a physical education teacher at the university where he was studying. At that time, he was in his 2nd year of graduate school, majoring in military engineering. On the day I started work, he took the initiative to show me around the campus. I treated him to a meal, and over time, we became friends. Later, he would often say ambiguous things to me, just enough to make me misunderstand that he liked me. Because I had admired him since childhood, I saw him through rose-colored glasses and eventually fell for him. I sent him a love letter to confess my feelings, but he said I was too young to tell the difference between friendship and love. My best friend told me that he just wanted to see how sincere I was. After I caught on, I spent 3 months' salary to buy him a computer. When that money ran out, I used my military severance pay to buy him all kinds of luxury goods. Soon after, he agreed to date me. He said, "I have my studies to focus on and big ambitions. Now is not the time for romance. But I really don't want to see you wasting your money anymore." This is a classic case of someone having their cake and eating it too. Anyone who says something like this is, without exception, a jerk. After we got together, I spent over $1 million on him. Since he was still in school, I was the one paying for meals and dates. I called him in the evening and asked what he had for lunch. His answer was always steamed buns with pickled vegetables. My heart ached for him. Out of his monthly salary of $5,000, I set aside $2,000 for his meals. He remained the same as always, saying he would save the money for future scientific research. All I could do was give him living expenses and invite him out for meals every now and then. Later, I found out that the money I gave him was all spent on prostitution. This was just about meals. He played the same game with me on food, clothing, housing, and transportation. I bought all his clothes. I got him a full outfit from what I considered to be brand name stores. He said not to buy clothes from the same brand because it was a waste, so I bought from even more expensive brands. He said his roommate was weird and even had violent tendencies. I advised him to move out, but he said it was fine to just make do. After all, renting a place outside wouldn't necessarily be more comfortable. I worried about his safety, so I spent 2,000 yuan a month to rent an apartment for him. He always walked to work, claiming it saved money, so I spent 10,000 yuan on a bicycle for him. He always acted this way, pretending to be indifferent, detached, and above worldly concerns, to win my sympathy and extract more from me. That would be tolerable enough. After we had been together for a year, he wanted to do a research project, but the school didn't approve it and gave the project to someone with connections. He didn't fight for it. I wanted to go to the school and demand an explanation for him. He stopped me and said, "We're all classmates here. He just wants to make his own record look better. Why do you have to make such a big deal out of it?" Afterward, he got emotional again, saying that if this project couldn't be completed, it would be a loss for the country. I felt the situation was very serious, so I spent 100,000 of my own money to help him run the experiment, under his various maneuvers. In less than 2 years, my 800,000 yuan military severance pay was nearly gone. Counting my salary, it amounted to over 1 million. My best friend said my husband was using me as a pawn and had been after my money from the very beginning. I didn't believe her, and a rift formed between us. Later, when I was sure I had no money left, I didn't even dare to order takeout, and I cut the monthly living allowance I gave him from 2,000 in half. I told him to get a part-time job, saying, "All the other graduate students are taking on freelance work and earning several thousand yuan a month. You're the only one sitting around doing nothing." When he heard me tell him to go to work, he instantly exploded. The country spent so much money nurturing me, not to have me work for those private companies. My talents can only be dedicated to the nation. I was furious. I had thought about asking him to take on side jobs before, but I believed he was meant for greater things and that taking on freelance work would be a waste of time. But once he finished his graduation project, he stayed cooped up at home playing games every day. He had plenty of time to take on paid work. Later, I found out that he had never done a single chore in his entire life. He always used studying as an excuse, even while his parents sold their blood to support him. Time passed quickly, and the day of the Research Institute exam arrived. I thought he would get into a well-paying institute with good benefits and become a scientist, but who would have guessed, he failed the exam. He said that after finishing his graduation project, he let his guard down, and his exam scores were a few points short, so he was eliminated. He was very dejected. "If I can't get into the Research Institute, how can I contribute to the country?" I comforted him. "Whether you get into the Research Institute or not, as long as your ambition remains unchanged, you will always be a hero in my eyes." He hugged me tightly and said emotionally, "Having a girlfriend who understands me like you is the luckiest thing in my life." Later, I found out that his grades were never good enough to get into the Research Institute. He had been lying to me all along. Without me paying for his graduation project, he would have struggled just to graduate. After graduation, I asked my family to pull strings so he could stay at the university as a teacher. I urged him to teach while continuing to study and retake the exam for the Research Institute. He said the Research Institute had shady dealings and that he needed to get into it by working on a project. I borrowed 200,000 to help him with the project. He poured the money into it, but soon became dejected. After finishing his classes each day, he just played games, living on a teacher's meager salary. I talked to him about ideals, and he said, "I don't want to get into the Research Institute anymore. One person's power is limited. Even if I get in, I can't change anything." I talked to him about money, saying that once the project succeeds, we could sell the patent and make a profit. He angrily slapped me and said, "Are you just like other women who love money? Do you think I'm incapable of making money? Do you love me or my money?" I was devastated. I realized I was wrong and had misjudged my best friend. My husband's grand talk about ambition and ideals was all nonsense. Maybe he had never loved me at all and had been after my money from the very beginning. I wanted to break up with him, but I couldn't let go. I had put everything into him. I wasted 2 years of my youth, spent over 1 million, and ended up with 200,000 in debt. I was 25 that year, and my family was pressuring me to get married, so I ended up marrying him in a daze. After marriage, he became increasingly decadent. My mother-in-law fell ill and needed 300,000 yuan for surgery. Because we bought a house with a loan, we had no savings at all. Although he lacked ability, his title as a prestigious university professor was still useful. As long as he wanted to make money, earning 10,000 a month was a piece of cake. I told him to take on some side gigs, and he said, even if I had nothing to do, I wouldn't waste my talent. I said, your mother is dying. He held his phone and said indifferently, everyone has their own fate. It's up to her luck. At that moment, I could have killed him with a knife. My mother-in-law treated me like her own daughter. I couldn't simply stand by and watch her die. Besides working as a PE teacher, I took on 3 part-time jobs. I worked day and night to earn money and fell ill several times. Everyone couldn't stand it anymore and blamed him for being unfilial and not caring for his wife. Every time I came home late at night, he would say, everyone dies eventually. Why are you pushing yourself this hard? I cried and said, but she's your own mother. Once, when I was short on cash and the hospital bill was overdue, the hospital called him. He scolded me harshly. What's wrong with you? How do you act as a daughter-in-law? They called my phone. Mom has been so good to you. Are you trying to kill her? I felt wronged. From then on, I wanted to divorce him and never bother with him again. Then, not long after, the scorching apocalypse arrived. The temperature kept rising, reaching 60 degrees, and the streets were filled with the dead. Before my mother-in-law died, she knelt down and kowtowed to me, begging, I beg you, don't divorce Wang Hao. He's been indifferent since childhood, never fighting or competing. In this chaotic world, without you, he won't survive. My heart softened, and I agreed. In the apocalypse, order collapsed, and many people, driven by hunger and desperation, turned to theft and robbery. Because my husband insisted on acting gentle and morally superior, I had to toughen up to fulfill my promise to my mother-in-law. Anyone who tried to steal from us lost a hand. Anyone who tried to rob us faced even harsher consequences. Every time I hurt someone, my husband would sneer. They only wanted some food. Why are you so ruthless? Couldn't you just give them something and send them away? After scolding me, he went straight to the neighborhood owners group to apologize to everyone, telling them to come to my house to get anti-inflammatory medicine. Everyone said he was kind-hearted, while I bore the blame myself. Later, our neighborhood had its water and electricity cut off. I took my husband to flee the disaster, traveling through many places and enduring countless hardships before finally reaching a safe zone. I was falsely accused of harming innocent people and put on public trial. I told him to tell the truth. That group was nothing but thugs. They tried to rape me, and I acted in self-defense. My husband scolded me in public. Shen Yu, how many innocent lives have you harmed along the way? With no evidence, how am I supposed to defend you? I was shocked. I knew my husband was tired of me, but I was his first woman. I had protected him the entire way. Why was he framing me? I looked at him anxiously. Those men were going to touch your wife. They threatened me, saying they would rape me right in front of you and then kill you. Have you forgotten? Slap. My husband slapped me across the face. He refused to admit the fact that he stood by and watched his wife being bullied while cowering in fear. He falsely accused me. What nonsense are you talking? There's no such thing. You were clearly after the gold on them. Murder and robbery. I couldn't believe it. How can you say that? Do you have any conscience toward me? My husband put on a victim's face. What have I done wrong? Since the apocalypse began, haven't you been fighting and competing with others every single day? Haven't I been the one cleaning up your mess every time? My eyes widened, and I collapsed to the ground. This woman is too evil. How many lives does she have on her hands? How can there be such a ruthless woman in this world? I feel sorry for Wang Hao. Wang Hao is too kind, repaying evil with kindness. If it were me, I would have given up on that shameless woman long ago. I had made too many enemies along the way, and the hearing erupted with accusations as people pointed fingers at me. I still tried to explain. My husband looked at the crowd below and said seriously, "If you're innocent, the truth will eventually come out. No one would accuse you without a reason." The presiding judge had long heard of my husband's character and trusted his words completely. And so, I was locked up in the prison of the safe zone. The prison of the safe zone held only ruthless criminals. I was repeatedly violated by 10 inmates and tortured to the brink of death. My husband, arm in arm with the heiress of a powerful figure in the safe zone, came to the prison to visit me, claiming it was to see off his ex-wife. The heiress was an innocent girl, her face brimming with happiness. She looked at me with disdain. "You missed a kind and outstanding man. You brought this upon yourself." After the heiress left, my husband stayed behind alone and said to me, "Since you're about to die, I might as well let you die with clarity." On the way to the safe zone, I had already contacted the eldest daughter. "And you're not my first woman. I understood everything." So his calm and refined demeanor was just a facade. All along, he had been using me as a pawn. He spent my money and cheated on me countless times. After the apocalypse, he became a celebrity by accumulating a reputation through acts of kindness. By chance, he got to know the heiress of a powerful figure in the safe zone and became friends with her online. On his way to the safe zone, he had already planned to build a reputation through good deeds, win the heiress's favor, and get rid of me, his wife. Those who falsely accused me of harming the people didn't do so without reason. He paid them. Even the group that assaulted me was provoked by him beforehand, forcing me to kill. These 10 criminals who tortured me were also arranged by him. He watched me die with my eyes wide open. Then he left with a perverse look of satisfaction in his eyes. The memory ended. The corners of my mouth twitched, and hatred flashed through my eyes. At that moment, a mother holding her child walked up and, with a thud, knelt down before me. "Please, I beg you, can you give me a ticket? I can die. But this child is only 3 months old, he hasn't even had a chance to see this world yet." The mother tried to guilt-trip me. I had seen too many people in the apocalypse hide behind parental love, play the victim, and use their children for personal gain. In my past life, I said, "Give me the child, and you go die." Her eyes darted away, and she fell silent. My husband accused me. "Xiaoyu, how can you be so heartless? Heartless enough to tear apart a mother and child? How can I trust you to take care of the child when you're so cold-blooded?" The mother, having heard of my husband's reputation for kindness, immediately begged him for help. My husband, putting on the air of a great benefactor, stood on the moral high ground, and I had no choice but to hand over the ticket to the mother. Because I was 1 ticket short, I took on a bounty mission in the safe zone. In the task of capturing a thief who was stealing resources from the safe zone, I lost hearing in one ear, just to earn a single ticket. Afterwards, he even poured cold water on me, saying that those 2 thieves lost their lives. My husband was convinced that I wouldn't abandon him, but he spoke without considering the difficulty, taking my efforts for granted. In this life, I would not be that foolish again. I directly refused the mom. "No." The mother was stunned, a flicker of malice flashing in her eyes. The onlookers pointed fingers at me. That was a life. "I've long heard she's cold-blooded. And it's true. You're so capable. Just grab another ticket, right?" My husband frowned and said to me in a commanding tone, "Xiaoyu, listen to me and give her the ticket. In this apocalypse, it's not easy for a woman with a child." I retorted to my husband, "And what about me? A woman, traveling all the way from the south to the north with you, was that easy?" My husband was stunned. He had never expected me to challenge him so openly and humiliate him in front of everyone. Everyone's gaze also converged on him, with many casting looks of contempt, as if to say, "A kept man, biting the hand that feeds him while cursing his benefactor." My husband cared deeply about appearances. His cheeks flushed as he said coldly, "Xiaoyu, how can you say that about me? You know I don't like fighting and killing. You're the one who insisted on running." I stopped caring whether I lived long ago. Only then did everyone nod, casting sympathetic glances at him, looking at me as if I were a tigress or a she-devil. In his past life, he had indeed said many times that he didn't want to live, that he didn't want to burden me, and told me to leave. Instead, I thought he had a sense of responsibility and refused to abandon him. Now that I think about it, I was such a fool. I said to my husband, "All right. Since you don't want to live anymore, this ticket was snatched for you. Are you really going to hand it over to her?" My husband was stunned. I handed the ticket to him. "Here, you make the choice yourself." My husband looked at me with some panic, as the crowd greedily eyed the tickets in his hand, wishing that the mother kneeling on the ground was them. My husband looked at me and said, "The most praiseworthy thing in this world is maternal love. This mother and child are truly pitiful." I knew he was trying to convince me, after he gave away the tickets, I would help him grab another one. I sneered inwardly and said, "Didn't I give you the ticket? Since you feel so sorry for them, give it to her." That mother was no fool. She quickly grabbed my husband's leg and resorted to moral blackmail. "Please. You don't want to live anymore. So give me the ticket. Save my child." My husband was stunned. Where did he not want to live? He wanted to live more than anyone. Everyone's eyes turned to my husband, wondering if he would actually give the ticket to that mother and child. My husband looked at me resentfully and said, "You're the one who snatched the ticket. I can't make that decision." I looked at him calmly and said, "I told you. I've already given you the ticket. As for who you want to give it to, that's none of my business. Since you don't want to live anymore, I don't want to bother with you either." My words put my husband in a bind. He had no choice but to give the ticket to the mother. Otherwise it would mean he wanted to live, and he would be a hypocrite. My husband casually handed the ticket to the mother. "I have lost all hope in this world. Children are the hope of this world. I hope you can carry this hope and keep living." The mother, deeply moved, held her child and kowtowed to my husband several times. Cheers erupted from the crowd, with everyone praising my husband as a great benefactor. Only I noticed my husband's clenched teeth and the bloodshot veins in his eyes. At that moment, the convoy from the safe zone drove into the square where we were. Everyone rushed forward, and I jogged over as well. My husband froze for a moment, then called out to me, "Xiaoyu, aren't you waiting for me?" I turned my head and said, "Don't you want to live anymore?" My husband fell silent, not knowing what to say. He followed me to the ticket checkpoint at the square. The members of the rescue team responsible for this operation were maintaining order at the scene. Many people who tried to board the bus without tickets were caught on the spot, dragged off, and some were even shot dead on the spot. The team member at the ticket checkpoint saw me and my husband walking side by side. I had a ticket in my hand, while my husband did not. He asked my husband, "Where's your ticket?" My husband was dumbfounded. The team member asked us, "What's going on here?" I said, "He doesn't have a ticket. Check mine first." My husband grabbed my arm. His eyes reddened. "Xiaoyu, what do you mean by that?" I played dumb. "What do I mean? Didn't you give your ticket to that mother? You don't have one anymore." My husband looked at me in disbelief, a terrified expression in his eyes, clearly troubled. He had already claimed that he no longer wanted to live, so he was too embarrassed to ask me for another ticket. My husband held back for a long time before finally saying, "I don't want to be apart from you." I couldn't help but laugh after hearing that, and said, "You don't want to live. But I still do. How can you be so heartless? Are you willing to let me stay and die with you?" "No." My husband quickly shook his head, finding it hard to speak. I laughed inwardly and asked him with confusion, "What is that?" My husband was a bit angry. He could tell I was teasing him, and he gritted his teeth as he looked at me. "Xiaoyu, you're angry, aren't you?" I shook my head. "No, I'm not. Why would I be angry? That ticket was always meant for you. You can give it to whoever you want, but don't even think about taking this one from me." My husband fumed. "You?" I said. "What do you mean, you? I worked so hard to snatch those tickets, and you just casually give them away to someone else. Isn't the child the future? Then just die." My husband grabbed my hand. "Xiaoyu." I pulled my hand away. "Let go of me. People have to pay for their own choices." My husband was furious, wanting to lash out, but afraid of ruining his own reputation. I couldn't be bothered with him, so I said to the ticket inspector, "Excuse me, can you check my ticket now?" After watching this little drama, the ticket inspector gave my husband a teasing glance and began checking my ticket. I passed through the ticket gate, while my husband stood outside, dumbfounded. Before I left, I turned back to look at him. He thought I was softening and took a step forward. Unexpectedly, I struck where it hurt most. Clearly afraid of death. Why pretend to be a saint? My husband's face turned extremely ugly, and he looked like he wanted to kill me. Shen Yu. You. The ticket inspector also looked down on my husband. If you don't have a ticket, get lost. Don't hold up the line. The people queuing behind also cursed him. If you don't want to live anymore, what are you still doing here? Go die already. My husband still couldn't believe I would actually leave him behind, until he saw me get on the bus. He broke down and kicked the wall hard. He couldn't understand why I didn't soften, why I didn't give him the ticket. Without me, his easy mark, how could he find another ticket? How could he go meet his wealthy heiress in the villa district? I thought my husband was done for, but to my surprise, he got on the bus just before departure. I heard someone nearby explain what had happened. After waiting at the pickup point for a long time, my husband grew disheartened, rushed out of the square protected by barbed wire, and went to feed the zombies. Just then, the female captain of the operation team saw this and stopped him. The female team leader had heard of my husband's reputation and admired his supposed character. Moved by pity, she spent a long time persuading him and eventually brought him onto the vehicle. When I heard this absurd explanation, I thought to myself that my husband was far too afraid of death to attempt suicide. He probably faked a suicide attempt just to get the female team leader's attention. That scumbag sure is lucky to be alive. I recalled that female captain, whose name was Li Shui. She was a simple, responsible woman with maxed out survival and combat skills. In my past life, on the way back to the safe zone, she knew my husband was in the vehicle. Like a fan meeting her idol, she took great care of him and sympathized with his plight. Sometimes, they even deliberately exchanged flirtatious glances to provoke me. Halfway through, due to insufficient food distribution, my husband acted recklessly, pretending to be a good person by offering to give up his share of food and die himself. He jumped out of the car and tried to escape, which led to the convoy being robbed by a large private armed organization. To protect the convoy and its members heading to the safe zone, Li Shui tragically sacrificed her life. In my past life, my husband really did a number on this girl. I never expected that in this life she would fall for it again. That man just charged into the zombie horde. I heard that man say he gave up his chance to escape for his wife. What a good man. Good deeds bring good rewards. Look, he ran into Captain Li. I heard Captain Li is only in her early 20s, beautiful, kind-hearted, and capable. Everyone in the car was discussing the matter, praising Captain Li. I don't think Li Shui is all that kind. The convoy only has so many vehicles, and the number of seats is fixed. My husband wasn't the only one without a ticket in the square. Countless people were crying and begging for a chance to survive, including a few lonely orphans. She would rather let my husband, a man who didn't want to live, get on the bus than give that chance to those people. Is she really that beautiful and kind-hearted? In the apocalypse, I don't want to morally blackmail others, and I don't care why Li Shui saved my husband. I just want to survive. In my past life, after my husband got on the bus, he caused a lot of trouble trying to build a reputation, nearly getting the entire convoy killed. In this life, since he's on the bus again, I definitely won't indulge him. After my husband got in the car, he ignored me. Several times, I felt a cold glare from behind me. It seems my husband has already held a grudge against me, resenting that I didn't give him the ticket. I didn't care at all. In fact, I was even a little pleased. This way, at least he wouldn't come bothering me again. Once the convoy set off, I used my memories from my past life to help the convoy avoid several rough roads and evade some mutated beast packs, saving a lot of time. The members of the action team all respected me greatly, but Captain Li Shui never gave me a good look. Every time she praised me in public, it was with a forced smile. I knew that because of my husband, she had a very poor impression of me. Like many others, She sympathized with his supposed plight and believed that I, the so-called tigress, had ruined him. Ever since we hit the road, every time we stopped to get out and rest, Li Shui would come over to my husband to check on him and chat with him. At first, Li Shui's excuse was that she was afraid my husband might do something rash, so she provided him with psychological counseling. But as time went on, Li Shui's favoritism and care for my husband became something the whole team acknowledged. Whenever someone questioned Li Shui's unfairness, she would coldly say, "Wang Hao has done so many good deeds and endured so much injustice. It's only right that I give him special treatment. If you're capable, why don't you follow Wang Hao's example?" My husband always pretended to be the victim, claiming he did not want special treatment and asking Li Shui to stop coming to him. The more my husband acted that way, the more persistent Li Shui became, seeking him out even more frequently. Her relationship with my husband grew increasingly intimate. When she looked at him, it was as if she were gazing at her own little lover. Relying on Li Shui's favoritism and care, my husband also did many good deeds. For example, after giving his own rations to others, he would go without food. When Li Shui found out, she would go hungry herself and give him the rations from the action team. A 15-minute break was scheduled, but he stepped forward and said that many people hadn't rested well, so he extended it to half an hour. I knew my husband's tricks all too well. In my past life, this is exactly how he treated me. Now that silly woman Li Shui is walking the same path I did in my previous life. Every time she mocked me, I felt like laughing. My husband managed to win over a lot of people with these small favors. Of course, not everyone was blind. Many people disapproved of my husband, finding him pretentious. My husband thought that with Li Shui around, he could keep this up forever. Unexpectedly, not long after, one of Li Shui's admirers in the action team, jealous of the relationship between Li Shui and my husband, reported Li Shui. When the safe zone authorities found out, they severely punished Li Shui, demoting her to deputy team leader. Li Shui publicly apologized to everyone and promised that she would no longer show favoritism toward my husband. Li Shui did not come to see my husband for several days in a row. Even during the daily boarding inspections, she deliberately avoided meeting him. My husband could no longer offer small favors, and as the journey passed the halfway point, the entire convoy's resources grew scarcer. People also began to disregard him. That day, when it was time to get off the bus for a rest, the mother who had boarded thanks to the ticket my husband gave her came asking him for food. A mother, busy taking care of her child and lacking the ability to gather supplies herself, has been relying on others' charity to survive. She has repeatedly asked my husband for food, and each time, he generously said that no matter who suffers, the child must not, and gave his own food to the mother. He wasn't worried at all, because with Li Shui around, he had no fear of going hungry. Now that Li Shui has been demoted and has ostensibly cut off contact, he has no food and will have to go hungry. A mother holding her baby knelt down and begged my husband, "Please, I don't want to do this either. But with the child, I really can't find food. I haven't eaten in 2 days." My husband gritted his teeth. He was lazy and incompetent, yet he had to maintain his persona of being indifferent and uncompetitive. When he went out to gather supplies, he could only scavenge some leftovers. On top of that, the environment ahead was getting harsher, and there was simply no food to be found. Now, if he handed over the food, how would he survive? The mother kept pleading over and over again. Many people cast contemptuous glances at my husband, and some began to lose faith in him. He wasn't like this before. Why is he so hesitant now? You don't get it. Without Li Shui's support. That's why. Really, I can't believe Wang Hao is that kind of person. The mom continued to guilt-trip my husband. In utter helplessness, my husband turned his gaze toward me. I said nothing, just smiled at him. He stared at me intently, as if hoping I would stand up for him. I really had to laugh. When you were flirting with Li Shuimei and deliberately trying to make me jealous, did you ever think you'd end up like this? Now that you're stuck in a tight spot with no way out, you think of me. He would not be that lucky. I said nothing, just looked at her calmly. My husband gritted his teeth, as if to say, "Do you have the heart to let me starve?" I wore an expression of someone watching a show. Someone noticed my husband looking in my direction. To avoid drawing attention, he reluctantly but had to pretend to be generous, handing over his food to the mother, thus preserving his reputation. Afterward, I caught my husband shooting me a venomous glare, but he quickly resumed that calm, serene, and unassuming demeanor. He walked over to me and struck up a conversation. Xiaoyu, how have you been lately? A dog's mouth never produces ivory. I knew he was trying to get closer to me so I would give him some food. I cut straight to the chase and said coldly, I don't have much food left either. If you want me to starve to death, I can give you my share. My husband's face changed drastically, and he quickly shook his head. Xiaoyu, you've misunderstood me. That's not what I meant. I asked, what do you mean by that? My husband paused for a moment and said, I came to see you this time to apologize. I've been holding this in for a long time. I was wrong about the ticket issue. Please don't be angry anymore. I shook my head and said, I'm not angry. I told you, that ticket is yours. It's your own business who you give it to. My husband gritted his teeth, looking somewhat displeased. He then put on a solemn expression and said, Xiaoyu, I really did have thoughts of ending my life before. Captain Li forced me onto the train, and over these days, I've thought about many things. I don't want to die anymore. I believe that everyone born into this world must have a purpose, especially now in the apocalypse when talent is scarce. I want to achieve my goals and realize my life's value. Are you trying to morally blackmail me with the value of life, society, and the hardworking people again? Do you think I'm still the fool from my past life? I peeled open a chocolate wrapper and asked him, are you done talking? I'm going to start eating now. My husband was stunned. He couldn't believe that after he had shared his ideals and expressed that he had regained his fighting spirit, I still wouldn't forgive him. All this time, he had thought I gave up on him because he no longer wanted to live. I didn't care about him anymore and just took a big bite. The aroma of chocolate and nuts filled my mouth. The taste was absolutely amazing. My husband's eyes widened, bloodshot as he stared at me. He swallowed hard, seemingly craving my chocolate, but then wore a restrained expression. He had been hungry for a long time. Even when Li Shui was around, he rarely got to enjoy such delicacies. Li Shui was the leader of the action team. Even with standard issue rations, she wasn't as well off as I was. Along the way, relying on my skills and memories from my past life, I had openly and covertly gathered a large amount of supplies. Li Shui had all but abandoned him. Seeing that I had good food, he wanted to win me back. But his pride and carefully maintained image kept him from saying so directly. He wanted me to make the first move and forgive him. How could I possibly let him have his way? I held up that half of the chocolate and asked him, you're hungry. You want to eat it, don't you? How could someone as ambitious and aloof as him ever admit it? He first reacted instinctively, then quickly shook his head. No, I'm not hungry at all. He frowned slightly, feeling frustrated, and said, don't you have anything to say to me? I nodded. I do. My husband smiled, the corners of his mouth lifting as he looked at me expectantly. His expression seemed certain that I would take the initiative to forgive him, hold him tight, and tell him I had never blamed him. Just as my husband's smile reached its peak, I smiled back and said, Wang Hao, keep it up. You'll definitely achieve your dreams. My husband froze, staring at me intently with an expression of disbelief. You, how could you? I looked at my husband and asked in confusion, what's wrong with me? Is there something on my face? My husband frowned and scolded me. Xiaoyu, can you be more sensible? I'm a man, and you're my wife. Since I'm the one lowering my head to you first, you should give me a way out. I sneered and said, if you really saw me as your wife, you wouldn't be so close to Li Shui. My husband quickly shook his head and said, Xiaoyu, I love you. I was only getting close to her to make you jealous. I admit I have a little bit of feelings for her, but you have to believe me, the one I love most is you. I was just messing around. I looked behind my husband. Captain Li, what brings you here? My husband flinched slightly, glancing sideways out of the corner of his eye, then quickly put on a composed and dignified demeanor, changing his tone. Xiaoxue, Even though our relationship has soured, I still have to say this, you've been a great help these past few times. Without you, everyone would still be stuck in that swamp. You've really done Captain Lee a huge favor. Li Shui had just seen my husband come to talk to me and say so much, which stirred a sense of crisis in her. Now, as she walked over and heard my husband thanking me on her behalf, a smile spread across her face. She looked at my husband. Wang Hao, didn't you say we'd get divorced once we reached the safe zone? Now you're thanking her for me, how awkward is that? Li Shui was young and couldn't contain herself. She seemed to be speaking to Wang Hao, but in reality, she was speaking to me, just to provoke me. Look, your husband wants to divorce you. You, the bad woman holding him back. However, she never expected that her words wouldn't affect me at all, and instead, they angered Wang Hao. I looked at Wang Hao, whose face had turned red, and guessed that he was cursing Li Shui 1,000 times in his heart. Now that Li Shui had brought up the divorce, how could he still have the nerve to rely on me for support? Li Shui completely failed to notice Wang Hao's emotional shift. She looked at me with a hint of aggression and said, Miss Shen, if you truly love him, then please let him go. You two are not suitable for each other. Stop clinging to one another. You did make a contribution in this operation, and once we return to the safe zone, I will report it truthfully. I remained composed and nodded to her. Then thank you very much. My husband saw that I didn't get angry upon hearing the word divorce and was taken aback. He had been about to explode, but this sudden turn of events left him at a loss. In the past, he had repeatedly brought up divorce, and every time I would get extremely emotional, unwilling to let go. I would even kneel and beg him tearfully, saying that as long as he didn't divorce me, I would do anything he asked. But now, I showed no reaction at all. He was completely baffled. Shen Yu, you clearly love me so much, don't you? Heh. My husband stared into my eyes for a long time. I knew he was trying to see through my eyes and into my heart. Finally, as he wished, he saw my restraint. But I wasn't restraining my love for him, I was holding back my laughter. I really couldn't hold it in much longer. The corner of my husband's mouth lifted slightly. Xiaoyu, I know you dislike me. I'll go over first. With a cold attitude, he turned and left. Li Shui shot me a mocking glance before also walking away. I watched my husband's tall, aloof back as he slowed his pace after Li Shui caught up to him, walking side by side with her as they chatted. I had to admit that my husband knew exactly what he was doing. By distancing himself from me and getting close to Li Shui, he was trying to pressure me. He wanted me to bow to his demands. What a pity. I was no longer the woman who loved him wholeheartedly, refused to let go, and feared being left with nothing. Break time was over. Before getting on the bus, Li Shui secretly slipped a compressed biscuit to my husband. My husband was sitting in the back of the bus, where the crowd was chaotic. He didn't dare to eat the compressed biscuits and could only wait until the next rest stop to eat them. Because the convoy was running low on gasoline, they turned off the air conditioning on the bus. With the outside temperature reaching 60 degrees, the inside of the bus was as hot as a steamer, and everyone was drenched in sweat. My husband hadn't eaten anything, and coupled with such harsh conditions, he soon couldn't hold on and began showing symptoms of heatstroke. On the bus, even someone suffering from heatstroke had no right to demand air conditioning, because every drop of fuel had to be reserved for the journey. My husband didn't dare to speak up even when he got heatstroke, because he wasn't the first to suffer from it. Several people had already gotten heatstroke before him, and when some argued with the crew, they were directly kicked off the bus. My husband had been sick a few times before. Back then, Li Shui hadn't been reported yet and was still the team leader, so she directly told the driver to turn on the air conditioning. Li Shui was no longer on that bus. Even if she had been, she would not have dared order the driver to turn on the air conditioning and invite more criticism. My husband held back for a long time, but he couldn't take it anymore and turned his gaze toward me. He wanted me to speak up for him. In my past life, my husband had also suffered from heatstroke in the car, so of course, I asked the driver to turn on the air conditioning. My husband slapped me across the face. Shen Yu, aren't you just making a scene? What right do I have to ask the team for special treatment? With so many lives at stake, can't you tell what's more important? Everyone was moved by this and praised my husband as a truly good person. I felt extremely wronged, but I couldn't just ignore my husband. Crying, I held a knife to the driver's neck, forcing him to turn on the air conditioning. I bore the blame and was called a vicious woman, while my husband enjoyed the air conditioning and the praise from everyone. The memory returned with painful clarity. This time, I would not repeat the same mistake. Got heatstroke? Did you? Burned to death? I was sitting at the front of the bus. In theory, I couldn't see my husband without turning my head, but I couldn't help myself. I was curious when that scumbag would die, so I kept glancing back. Several times. Our eyes met. He looked at me with an expression of extreme pain yet stubbornly holding on, as if saying, I don't need your help. Don't help me. Don't you dare help me. I had seen this look many times in my past life. He had mastered the art of playing hard to get. I wanted to see how long he could hold out. I kept smiling at him from time to time. He didn't understand what I meant. Several times, I saw a grimace on his face. It looked like discomfort, but in reality, he wanted to curse me. In the end, my husband couldn't take it anymore. He knew that if he didn't call out to me for help, he would miss the best time to escape the heat, and it would be too late for me to save him. My husband struggled to stand up, looked at me weakly, and shouted, Xiao Yu. I was watching a movie I had downloaded earlier. I took off one earbud, turned my head, and asked, What? Everyone's gaze also turned to the two of us. My husband looked guilty and said painfully, Xiao Yu. I feel like I'm about to lose it. There are some things that, if I don't say them now, I'll never have the chance. I replied coldly, if you have something to say, just spit it out. I'm still watching the movie here. My husband's pupils contracted. My reaction caught him off guard. Soon, he calmed down, thinking I was deliberately being difficult with him. Not only my husband, but many others in the car felt the same way. Because the story of me, the female demon, fleeing with my seemingly gentle and indifferent husband had spread widely. In everyone's eyes, I was deeply in love with my husband, with an overwhelming desire for control. It was only because of the incident between my husband and Li Shui that I was holding a grudge against him. A doting smile appeared on my husband's face. Xiao Yu, I know you hate me. It's okay. I won't be angry with you. In the past, I cared too much about my pride and didn't consider your feelings. That was my fault. As your husband, I failed in my duty. As my husband spoke, he stared into my eyes, waiting for me to change my mind. He kept talking, and I listened impatiently. Gradually, he said everything he should and shouldn't have said, rambling all the way to how I was a physical education teacher in college. He was in graduate school, and I confessed to him. He kept getting emotional, but there was no response from me at all. The passengers, initially moved, soon grew tired of listening. I had no idea how my supposedly dying husband could talk so much. Wang Hao, are you ever going to stop? I know you love her, but she doesn't want to forgive you. With all that effort, you might as well sit down and take a break. Many people were teasing my husband. The look in my husband's eyes grew more pained and confused by the day. According to his script, shouldn't I have been moved to tears by now? Rushing over to hold him and shouting at the driver to turn on the air conditioner. My husband pursed his lips and said weakly, Xiao Yu, don't you have anything to say to me? I picked my ear with my pinky finger and said, Nope. My husband said, I'm really about to lose it. I said, if you're going to die, please hurry up, I'm getting impatient. A burst of laughter came from the carriage behind. My husband's face turned red. Xiao Yu, I know you hate me, but when did you become so cold-blooded? He started guilt-tripping me again, and I didn't spare him any face. Don't even think about it. The convoy is running low on gas. I can't risk everyone's lives just to have the driver turn on the AC for you. As soon as these words were spoken, my husband's face turned green. He never expected that I would just stand by and watch him die. Faced with the intense gazes of the crowd, he quickly denied it, saying, Xiao Yu, you've misunderstood. I just wanted to say goodbye to you. After saying this, he slumped into his seat, utterly dejected. Soon, my husband couldn't hold on any longer and passed out. I thought my husband was done for, but unexpectedly, just a few minutes later, the entire convoy suddenly stopped. Li Shui rushed to our car with the team doctor, ordered the driver to turn on the air conditioning immediately, and had the doctor check on my husband. Li Shui was giving special treatment again, and someone expressed strong dissatisfaction, saying the convoy was running low on fuel and asking what would happen if they couldn't reach the safe zone. More people, however, supported it. They didn't take the fuel shortage seriously, and after the air conditioning was turned on, they also got to enjoy the benefits. Even though there were dissenting voices in the crowd, Li Shui blatantly gave my husband special treatment, personally feeding him water and using a wet towel to wipe his body. Everyone knew that Li Shui had fallen for my husband, and she didn't even bother to hide it anymore. Under Li Shui's special care, my husband recovered. I was furious inside. In my past life, it was because I insisted that the driver turn on the air conditioning that the convoy ran out of gasoline, forcing us to head to a ruined city to find fuel. This led to our whereabouts being exposed, which in turn caused a series of subsequent pursuits and blockades by bandits. I had thought that rebirth and memories of my past life would make the journey simple, but as long as my troublemaking husband was around, peace was impossible. The next day, when Li Shui turned on the air conditioning for my husband, the news was transmitted back to the safe zone. Li Shui's position as deputy team leader was also stripped away, and the safe zone stated that if there were a next time, they would kill my husband on the spot. Li Shui was simple, like most girls, bold, passionate, and pure when it came to emotions. But now that this matter involved my husband, she was forced to accept it. She no longer dared to get on our car, nor did she dare to be alone with my husband during rest stops. She even avoided looking in his direction, afraid that others would catch on. Although Li Shui's position was stripped away and she still had some prestige, in the apocalypse, a position meant real power. No matter how much prestige she had, it was useless. People began to disregard Li Shui's face, and in turn, they disrespected my husband. During the day, everyone searched a small town, but at night, the convoy continued moving to make progress on the journey. The car was a mix of all sorts, filled with various thugs and lowlifes. Following the usual practice, each faction started going from carriage to carriage demanding supplies. After one round, half of everyone's supplies had been taken from them. Many people have become numb. The thugs kept demanding along the way, and they kept giving in. They also tried to resist and reported it to the convoy, but the convoy was used to such things and only went through the motions. All factions automatically ignored me, because on the first day I got on the bus, someone tried to take my supplies, and I directly cut off that person's hand. That one battle established my authority and intimidated everyone. With me here, plus Li Shui, no one had ever dared to make a move on my husband before. But last time when my husband suffered from heatstroke, I was cold toward him, and Li Shui was also demoted, to the point where she didn't even dare to board our car. My husband had become an easy target loaded with supplies. When he suffered heatstroke, Li Shui had given him a considerable share. A few small factions didn't dare to touch my husband, but the largest faction on the bus couldn't stand it anymore. They had long been fed up with him. A burly man came up to my husband, grinning. "Generous sir, your brother here is hungry. How about a bite to eat?" My husband panicked and looked at me. I sneered at him. He gave me a hard stare, but I remained unmoved. When the burly man saw my reaction, he became even more emboldened. "Oh, great benefactor, do you want your brother here to starve to death? I really can't go on much longer." My husband gritted his teeth and pulled a few apples out of his bag. Even while being robbed, he still tried to save face. "I can't stand to see others suffer. Here, take them." The burly man took the apples, a look of contempt flashing in his eyes, and mockingly patted my husband's face with his hand. Truly worthy of being called a great benefactor. My husband's lips twitched slightly as he cast a complicated glance in my direction. I looked at him with disdain. Since someone had managed to get something from my husband, Other factions naturally couldn't miss out. They borrowed several people and came to me demanding supplies. My husband handed out the supplies one by one, spouting high-sounding words to build up his image as a great benefactor. Watching my husband clearly suffer grievances yet still pretend to be the good guy, I felt immensely satisfied inside. My husband has been drained of all our family savings by these people, and he has almost nothing left on him. At that moment, a sleazy-looking muscular man walked up to him and reached out his hand. My husband shook his head. I really want to help you, but I have nothing left on me. The muscular man flashed an evil grin. No worries. I'm not here to ask for anything. A muscular man touched my husband's face with his hand. My husband looked utterly resistant and shot me a pleading look. I was already laughing. That sleazy muscular man had an abnormal orientation and had been clinging to my husband for a long time. In my past life, that muscular man couldn't help himself and secretly touched my husband's face at night. After I found out, I gave him a severe beating. At that time, my husband scolded me harshly, saying, "Sexual orientation is a right one is born with. Him touching me is his right. Why are you so domineering?" He wanted me to kneel and apologize to the muscular man in public, but I refused. He threatened that if I didn't apologize, he would open the car window and jump out. In the end, he went on a hunger strike for a day, and I felt sorry for him, so I did as he said. In this life, let this muscular man bully him mercilessly. My husband called out to me, "Xiao Yu." I asked, "What is it?" After all, my husband is a man, and he found it hard to bring up such a matter. He hesitated for a long time, then said, "He touched me." I thought of what he said in the past life and couldn't help but laugh. I said, "It's his right to touch you. Don't be so overbearing." My husband was stunned. Although he hadn't said this to me in this life, he had mentioned the word rights more than once along the way, and he could tell I was teasing him. The sleazy muscular man smiled at me, stroked my husband's hand, and said to him, "You used to go on and on about rights and whatnot. Now your wife has agreed, so don't be so overbearing." The carriage erupted in laughter. My husband's face turned bright red. After holding back for a long time, he mustered up the courage and pulled his hand back. Slap! The muscular man slapped him across the face. "Are you asking for it?" My husband instantly backed down, forcing a bitter smile. "No. No." He shot me a hateful glance, trying to save face. "We're all human, not animals. Everyone has the right to pursue what they love. Sexual orientation should not be ridiculed." The crowd cast scornful looks. I was utterly speechless. How could a man be so weak and incompetent? I must have been blind in my past life to fall for a man like this. The muscular man continued to assault my husband, who kept saying, "Just like that. I'm a bit sleepy." The muscular man had no intention of letting my husband go. He pulled him down from the seat, pressed his head down, and forced him to kneel before him. Because the seat blocked my view of my husband, I could only see the muscular man. The muscular man loosened his belt with his hand and said lecherously, "Great benefactor, you've helped so many people. Why not help me out too?" Everyone in the car was shocked as they watched this scene. The thugs behind them started jeering. "Great benefactor, please help my brother here. You are the kindest person I have ever met in my life. Hurry up. How can you bear to keep us waiting so long? I still want to sleep." The muscular man urged my husband, "Hurry up." My husband was deeply humiliated. Although I couldn't see him, I knew he was waiting for me to stand up for him at that moment. In my past life, if anyone dared to treat him like this, I would have killed their entire family. Now that the muscular man is treating my husband this way, I thank the muscular man's mother for giving birth to such an absurd son. What a relief. Truly a relief. Muscle pressed down on my husband's head with his hand, trying to force him. My husband shouted, "Shen Yu, what are you standing there for? Are you just going to watch him bully me?" I laughed and said, "Wang Hao, when trouble comes, you run to a woman. Are you even a man?" The crowd burst into laughter. Everyone chimed in agreement. What a useless piece of trash. Coward. Hurry up. The muscular man had a sinister look in his eyes and a tough attitude. "Come on. Everyone's waiting." You're going to love the feeling. My husband was humiliated to the extreme. Finally, he acted like a man for once. He pulled a knife from his waist and stabbed it straight into the muscular man's stomach. Clack, clack, clack. His eyes wild. He stood up and stabbed the muscular man dozens of times. The muscular man died. A woman screamed, "Murder!" Everyone was shocked. And the carriage erupted into chaos. The driver stopped the vehicle urgently. A murder by the convoy was a serious matter. Soon, the convoy stopped to deal with the situation. Li Shui was worried about my husband's safety and was the first to rush to our car. When she saw the blood on my husband and his dazed face, she was stunned. She could hardly believe that my husband had killed someone. She asked me, "Why did you kill someone?" My husband looked dazed. His face flushed red. And he didn't know how to explain. "This is too embarrassing." The current action team leader questioned my husband, asking why he killed someone. My husband still refused to speak. The thugs in the car, as if they had conspired together, all refused to talk, all waiting to see my husband make a fool of himself. The squad leader also knew that someone in the convoy was robbing supplies. He accused my husband. "You're not saying anything. Does that mean you have a guilty conscience? Haven't you always prided yourself on being a good person? How could you do something like this?" Li Shui looked at my husband with a complicated expression. She also guessed that my husband had killed someone over the supplies. She felt both guilt and shock. In her eyes, my husband was such a kind person that he would never kill anyone under any circumstances. Li Shui couldn't accept this. She anxiously looked at my husband and said, "Wang Hao, the squad leader is asking you a question. Say something. Why did you kill someone?" The muscular man's gang member insisted to my husband, "You killed my brother. You must pay with your life." My husband looked panicked and finally said helplessly, "His sexual orientation was abnormal. He humiliated me and laid his hands on me. No matter how kind I am still a man. I couldn't let another man humiliate me like that. So I killed him." The team leader glanced at the muscular man on the ground several times and frowned. "Is that so? But even so, you can't kill someone." Li Shui's face also turned grim. She still couldn't accept this. In her eyes, my husband was absolutely righteous and pure as water. Now that he had killed someone, even if he did what any man would do, he was tainted. The captain asked my husband, "How can you prove that he was making improper advances toward you?" My husband said everyone on the bus saw it. After what had just happened, not a single person on the bus had any respect for my husband, and no one came forward to testify for him. The muscular man's buddy wanted to use this as leverage to demand compensation, turning the tables and blaming my husband instead. "My brother is all muscle. Do you think he would like a man? He's just talking nonsense. My brother was killed by Wang Hao. Captain, you must seek justice for us." The captain frowned. "Wang Hao, is this really the case?" My husband panicked instantly, his body trembling. He first glanced at Li Shui, then turned his gaze to me. "Xiaoyu, you speak for me." I smiled coldly and said, "There were seats blocking the way. I didn't see anything." My husband looked at me in disbelief. "Xiaoyu, I know you hate me, but you can't just say things like that about something so serious." I thought back to my past life, to the words he said to me on the execution platform. I said coldly, "The innocent will prove their innocence. No one would wrong a good person for no reason." My husband looked at me in disbelief, and even Li Shui stared at me in surprise. The team leader had a strained relationship with Li Shui. He knew my husband was most likely innocent, but he wanted to use this incident to put Li Shui in her place. The team leader looked at my husband with a mocking gaze. "Wang Hao, this is premeditated murder." My husband's face twisted with rage. "I didn't kill him on purpose. He forced my hand." Li Shui had never seen my husband like this. In her eyes, he had always been gentle, refined, and unassuming. How could he ever get into a heated argument with anyone? I sneered inwardly, sneering at Li Shui's love for my husband. What a load of crap this so-called affection was, nothing more than a form of worship. Li Shui was stunned for a long moment before she turned to the captain. "Captain Chen, Wang Hao didn't kill anyone on purpose. These people were clearly targeting him. Can't you see that? Li Shui looked at me with disdain. Shen Yu, you clearly know the truth. Why don't you explain it for him? I played dumb. I only saw the victim robbing Wang Hao's supplies. But I really didn't see anything else. My husband looked at me like a madman. Shen Yu, do you have to push me to death before you're satisfied? I smiled and said, that's what you think yourself. I never said that. My husband's expression grew even more manic. Shen Yu, how dare you still smile? Li Shui looked at me coldly. Shen Yu, stop provoking Wang Hao. After all, you were his ex-wife. You were once married, how can you be so vicious? I snorted lightly. He's the one who wants to die. What does that have to do with me? These words completely ignited Wang Hao. He picked up the knife from the ground. The captain panicked. What are you going to do? Wang Hao brandished the knife. Stay back. All of you. Li Shui urged anxiously. Wang Hao, put down the knife now. Wang Hao. While waving the knife back toward the window, he said frantically, since none of you believe me and think I deliberately killed someone, I'll just get out of the car. He opened the window and said to Li Shui, I'm sorry, Xiao Xue, I let you down. After speaking, he shot a fierce glare in my direction, as if to say, Shen Yu, aren't you heartless? If I die, don't regret it. Li Shui rushed over to stop him. My husband jumped straight out of the car and ran outside. Li Shui was heartbroken and shouted anxiously, Wang Hao, come back. The team leader was also stunned. He only wanted to take the opportunity to warn Li Shui, but who would have thought things would escalate so much? Li Shui became the team leader at such a young age, not only because of her impeccable timing but also because her family had strong connections. Li Shui said coldly, I'll settle the score with you when I get back. Li Shui shot me another hateful glance before jumping out the window to chase after my husband. Seeing Li Shui, my husband brandished a knife and said, stay back. Don't follow me. If you keep following me, I'll kill myself. I've already killed someone, I don't want to live anymore. Everyone in the car was dumbfounded. Given Li Shui's physical abilities, she could easily have caught my husband, but because she loved him, she refused to lay a hand on him. I wished my husband would just die out there. If Li Shui didn't get back on the vehicle, the convoy couldn't move. Stuck in place. They were in grave danger, not only from mutated beasts and zombies, but also from various private armed groups lurking nearby. This matter concerns me. If something goes wrong, the team leader will definitely shift the blame onto me. Without a second thought, I jumped out of the car and went to find my husband. The team leader wiped the sweat from his forehead and sighed. Women are such a hassle. 2 women fighting over 1 man has brought trouble to all of us. Everyone also thought that I still had lingering feelings for my husband. My husband thinks so too. Seeing me come out, he got even more worked up, running farther and farther away, wanting me to admit I was wrong. I tried to catch him, but Li Shui stopped me. Do you want him to die? I said, even if you die, he won't. Li Shui scolded, don't you dare try to drive a wedge between us. Soon my words came true. We followed Wang Hao as he ran all the way, arriving at a stretch of barren desert. Suddenly, the sound of motorcycles came from afar. I squinted and saw a group of private armed forces, about a dozen thugs, holding light weapons in their hands. In the apocalyptic heat, the authorities have lost control over the land. Apart from a few major safe zones, private armed groups are everywhere, burning, killing, and looting. Wang Hao was dumbfounded when he saw the gang of thugs. He had been acting out of spite toward Li Shui and me, trying to reclaim his manhood from us. Encountering the thugs was the last thing he expected. He looked back in panic and realized the convoy was no longer in sight. Now the 3 of us have to take on more than a dozen vicious thugs. Wang Hao panicked and hid behind us, crouching down with his head in his hands. Li Shui gritted her teeth and said, Wang Hao, you've really screwed us over this time. I didn't have time to complain and tackled Li Shui to the ground. Get down. A burst of bullets struck the spot where she had just been standing. Both Li Shui and I were experienced in combat. We quickly found a reverse slope to take cover, while Wang Hao hid behind us. Wang Hao blamed himself. It's all my fault. I'm to blame. Li Shui comforted Wang Hao. It's not your fault. Li Shui glared at me fiercely. If you had testified for Wang Hao, none of this would have happened. I smiled and said nothing. Li Shui requested reinforcements from the captain. Just as I expected. The captain's convoy had also run into trouble with some private individuals and couldn't spare anyone for the moment. Since Li Shui had left in a hurry, she only brought her pistol. But before getting out of the car to find Wang Hao, I had taken my bag. I pulled out my pistol from the bag and tossed a few magazines to Li Shui. These were things I had scavenged from the city ruins during this time. I glanced at Wang Hao and said to Li Shui, we do have our differences, but with a common enemy at hand, let's set aside whatever issues we have and deal with them later. Li Shui snorted. No need for you to remind me. I'm not that petty. When the enemy entered the pistol's effective range, we began our counterattack. Back when I was in the military, my marksmanship was quite accurate, and Li Shui was even more skilled. She had plenty of experience. After we trained together and got used to each other, our coordination became seamless. We quickly took out half of the enemy. The enemy also took cover behind a large boulder not far away, engaging us in a war of attrition. Bang! 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 As each bullet was fired, the number of enemies dwindled. As long as we waited for the captain to finish off the armed group over there and come to support us, we would be fine. But in the end, Wang Hao lost his nerve first. He was afraid that the enemy would charge up and surround the three of us. When a grenade landed beside us, his fear reached its peak. He actually crouched down and fled backward. I said, "Are you looking for death?" Li Shui shouted, "Come back quickly." When the enemies spotted the target, they revealed themselves one after another, and a volley of bullets came flying over. Wang Hao was so terrified that he threw himself to the ground. "Xiao Shui, Xiao Yu, save me. Hurry up and save me. Wang Hao, you really deserve to die." I was furious enough to kill him. Li Shui fired a few shots toward the enemy and shouted, "Shen Yu, cover me." Li Shui stood up and ran toward where Wang Hao was. Although Li Shui annoyed me, we were comrades now. I leaned out and fired my pistol toward the boulder where the enemy was hiding. The enemy had a submachine gun while I had only a pistol. No matter how accurate I was, I could not suppress their fire. Li Shui keeps shooting while dragging Wang Hao toward me. Bang! A bullet hit Li Shui in the thigh. Blood splattered onto Wang Hao. He was stunned, thinking he had been shot himself. When he realized it was Li Shui who had been hit, panic flashed in his eyes. Li Shui immediately went still. Wang Hao stood frozen in place, unable to move her. Gritting his teeth, he could only fire back at the enemy. I helped suppress the enemy for Li Shui and shouted to Wang Hao, "Drag Li Shui and run to your right. There's a reverse slope over there." Wang Hao froze for a moment. Seeing the enemy's blazing gun muzzle ahead, he shuddered, set Li Shui down, and ran toward the reverse slope. Li Shui's eyes widened as she fell to the ground. Seeing this act of abandoning a teammate, I wanted to shoot Wang Hao on the spot. Li Shui shouted, "No!" Slap! Li Shui covered her eyes. I didn't kill Wang Hao. Instead, I took down an enemy who was aiming at her. Li Shui crawled toward me, and I provided cover for her, just as she was about to crawl onto the slope where I was. Bang! A bullet hit her in the abdomen, followed by a burst of bullets fired at her. I let out a scream, fired a few shots at the enemy, and then, braving a hail of bullets, dragged Li Shui over. Li Shui was shot again, this time in the liver. The wound wouldn't stop bleeding, and her eyes were glazed over. Her condition was extremely critical. Based on my judgment, she most likely wouldn't survive. She seemed to know she wouldn't survive. After reloading her magazine, she exposed half of her body and engaged in a fierce firefight with the enemy. She killed 3 enemies but was hit several more times. Now there were only 2 opponents left. With my current strength, my chances of winning were very high. At that moment, Wang Hao analyzed the situation clearly and shouted to us, "Xiao Shui, Xiao Yu, are you two okay? I've never been through something like this before. I was a bit flustered just now, sorry about that." Li Shui let out a relieved laugh, though her smile carried a hint of bitterness. I asked her curiously. What are you laughing at? Li Shui said happily. He called my name first. With a solemn expression. I reloaded the magazine and asked Li Shui, was it worth it? Li Shui looked at me disdainfully. You don't understand love. And you don't love him either. The moment he jumped out of the car just now, I figured it out. Loving someone means accepting their flaws. No one is perfect. I said, you're the one who doesn't understand love. Li Shui gasped heavily, barely able to breathe now, but her eyes still held a sense of superiority. Is that so? You're just jealous of me. Wang Hao said that meeting me was the greatest luck of his life. On the second day we met, he decided to divorce you and give me a home. Li Shui was dying, and I was torn inside. Should I let her die content, or should I reveal Wang Hao's true nature to her? I ultimately felt it was better to tell Li Shui. The most desperate thing for a woman is to believe, until the moment of death, that the man she loves deeply loves her back. That was how I was in my past life. I said to Li Shui, Wang Hao doesn't love you. Li Shui's eyes blazed with anger. You're talking nonsense. I took out my phone and started recording. If you truly saw me as your wife, you wouldn't have gotten so close to Li Shui. Xiaoyu, I love you. Being with her was just to make you jealous. I admit I have a bit of a crush on her, but you have to believe me, the one I love most is you. Everything with Li Shui was just a game. That time Wang Hao came to me for food. I recorded it. After a moment of stunned silence, Li Shui's face twisted as she burst into manic laughter. Wang Hao, you're nothing but a waste who deceives women's feelings and lives off them. You beast. You tricked me. I'll kill you. Li Shui weakly raised the gun, aiming in the direction where Wang Hao was. Wang Hao's eyes were filled with terror. No. Xiaoshui, I love you. Wang Hao quickly ducked behind cover. Li Shui fired a shot, and the gun slipped from her hand. She wanted to kill Wang Hao, but she was powerless. She died with her eyes wide open, staring at me with a pleading look before her last breath. Kill him for me. Wang Hao then emerged, and upon seeing Li Shui dead, a look of relief flashed in his eyes. I was absolutely furious. Although Li Shui had provoked me many times, it was still pitiful how she was deceived by Wang Hao. This scumbag, pretending to be aloof and refined, hiding behind women and using them as pawns, he wouldn't be disgraced even if he died 100 times. I closed her eyes for her. I will. Now was indeed a good opportunity to take care of Wang Hao right here and frame those thugs for it. However, just as I was about to kill Wang Hao, the captain arrived with his men. That bastard sure is lucky. I had no choice but to point my gun at those two enemies. The captain arrived, and the two enemies were quickly taken down. Upon seeing Li Shui's body, the captain was utterly devastated. This is the end. This is the end. The convoy lost one vehicle, with 7 or 8 members and over a dozen civilians dead, and a third of the gasoline, drinking water, and other supplies gone. Even worse, Li Shui was dead, and her father held a high position in the safe zone. This was no small matter. I told the team leader the details of the fight. The team leader walked up and slapped Wang Hao twice across the face. You useless piece of trash. This is all your fault. Wang Hao gritted his teeth but had nothing to say. The captain wanted to execute Wang Hao on the spot, but since such a major incident had occurred, Wang Hao was needed to take the blame, so he had to be kept alive for now. After returning to the convoy, no one in the entire team spoke well of Wang Hao anymore. Those who had lost relatives wished they could skin him alive and pull out his tendons. As for me, I earned everyone's respect. Since the action team had lost 7 or 8 members and was in dire need of capable people, my strength was recognized by all, and they hoped I could protect them. Although the convoy had lost a third of its essential supplies, it had also lost 1 vehicle and nearly 20 people. As a result, many supplies were no longer in short supply. However, unfortunately, what the convoy needs most now is gasoline. Without gasoline, the convoy cannot reach the safe zone. The convoy must replenish supplies to get to the safe zone. Replenishing supplies means having to search for them in the ruins of the city, facing various dangers. Everyone resents Wang Hao even more. If Li Shui hadn't run the air conditioning in the bus for a whole day and night because Wang Hao was suffering from heatstroke, perhaps there would be enough gasoline now. Even worse, if Wang Hao had died right then, none of the subsequent events would have happened. There was no point in discussing it further. The captain directed the convoy toward Jinjing, the last major city on the route, to search for supplies. Because of my past life memories, I knew the fight over the gasoline would expose us and draw the attention of a private armed group called the Reaper Syndicate. This Reaper Syndicate is a massive group with thousands of members, and even the safe zones can do nothing about them. In my past life, when we were at full strength, we encountered the Reaper Syndicate. Li Shui was killed in action, most of the task force members were lost, and 4 vehicles in the convoy were destroyed. Now we are 1 car short, dozens of people fewer, and Li Shui is dead. Things are looking even more grim. We could not take a detour. Beyond Jinjing lay an endless desert with no sizable city in sight, and without enough supplies we would never make it through. Even if I tell the captain about the danger now, he won't listen to me. He knows full well that Jincheng is the territory of the Killing God organization. On the way, drawing from my past life memories, I came up with a way to deal with it. When the convoy arrived at Jinjing, the action team went to look for gasoline, while the others split up to search for food and drink. Just like in the previous life. Halfway through the search, gunfire rang out from the south of the city. A few civilians on our side exchanged fire with a group of vagrants inside the city of Jincheng. The captain immediately ordered the action team members to provide support. These vagrants have survived this long because they're seasoned veterans, but they still fall short compared to regular troops. The action team arrived quickly and eliminated them. Here's the problem. The gunfire just now has already exposed our position. Since there's 1 group of vagrants in the city, it means there are more than just one. If we continue searching for supplies, we'll definitely get shot in the back by the vagrants in the city. More critically, the informants of the city's private assassin organization must have spotted us as well. The main force of the assassin organization is probably already on its way here. 2 opinions emerged within the convoy. One was to stay and finish searching for supplies before leaving, while the other was to leave immediately and not risk their lives here. After hesitating, the captain gritted his teeth and said, "People can endure hunger, but the vehicles can't. Once we find gasoline, we'll leave right away." I said, "Leave here now. I'll handle the gasoline problem." The captain widened his eyes. "If we leave now, how are we supposed to find gasoline?" I remained calm. "You go first. Leave 1 car for me." After a moment of hesitation, the captain immediately understood my intention. The convoy currently had 4 vehicles, and we didn't have enough gasoline to get the entire fleet to the safe zone. But with 1 less car, the chances of the remaining 3 making it back to safety were much higher. If I found gasoline, I could catch up. If not, the convoy would abandon me and continue the escape with the remaining people. The captain looked at me with admiration and said, "I'll leave a few more people for you." With 1 less vehicle and no seats available, the convoy would inevitably have to reduce its personnel. This was both a humanitarian necessity and an unavoidable measure. I smiled and said, "I don't need the action team. They'll do just fine." I turned my gaze toward the group of fierce-looking burly men in the team. They were the largest gang of thugs in the convoy, 7 men in all. Throughout the journey, they never searched for supplies themselves and simply robbed others. They had been violent criminals even before the apocalypse. If they reached the safe zone, they would never settle down peacefully. I need to take this opportunity to get rid of them. In my past life, after the convoy was hunted down by the Reaper Syndicate, I took the chance to finish them off. In this life, I had no reason to spare them. The leader of this group, Big Eye, glared at me angrily when he heard I wanted to keep them, protesting, "Why should we stay? We're civilians. If anyone should stay, it's the action team. What use is it for us to stay?" I said, "You've been looting all the way, bleeding everyone dry. Now it's time for you to give back to everyone." Everyone had long harbored resentment toward Big Eye, and they chimed in one after another. "Yes, let them stay. They've eaten too much of our food. They deserve it." Big Eye, red-faced, argued with me. "No, That won't do either. This is a life or death situation. According to the rules, the action team can't leave civilians behind. I said, staying with the convoy, you'll still die. The action team has only so many people as it is. If we split off a few more, how many will be left to protect the civilians? After hearing what I said, everyone became even more supportive of me. There are only this few people left in the action team. If we run into another group of bandits, the whole convoy is finished. Big Eye, you have to stay. Otherwise, we'll all die. Big Eye tried to act tough, looking back at his men, but I directly pulled out my gun and pressed it against his head. I don't have time to negotiate with you right now. Big Eye instantly backed down, looking at the team leader with reluctance. Captain Chen, you need to control Shen Yu. The team leader said coldly. It's settled. You're staying. If you say another word, I'll shoot you. Of course, he was also willing to have Big Eye stay. Having members of the action team remain with the convoy was safer. Besides, he had taken over as team leader midway, and any death in the action team would be his fault. Big Eye and his group ate a lot but did little. These parasites were of no use staying in the convoy. After the meeting, everyone got into the vehicles, but my husband Wang Hao was still slow to get on the bus. The team leader still wanted to take Wang Hao back to take the blame, and he shouted, Wang Hao, why aren't you getting on the bus yet? Wang Hao looked at me affectionately and said, I can't let go of Shen Yu. I smiled. He was not staying because he could not bear to leave me. He knows that I value my life greatly and never take risks without certainty. Following the convoy also comes with its own dangers. Moreover, because of the incident with jumping off the vehicle, everyone in the convoy hates him deeply. The captain still intends to take him back to the safe zone to face punishment. If he doesn't earn some credit now, by the time he returns to the safe zone, his reputation will be ruined. How else can he attract the attention of the powerful official's daughter there? If he stays behind, to avoid suspicion, my difficulty in dealing with Big Eye and the others will increase significantly. The captain was somewhat reluctant. He felt that I was risking my life, and he didn't want to lose his scapegoat. He said, Wang Hao, don't joke with your life. Can't you see? Shen Yu no longer loves you. Wang Hao looked at me, a bitter smile on his face. But we were deeply in love. I am a man. She was my wife. I can't just abandon her and flee alone. I want to stay with her. I was about to throw up from hearing that, not hiding my contempt at all. Wang Hao, what are you staying for? Besides needing people to save you, what else can you do? Staying will only cause me trouble. Just get in the car. Everyone looked at Wang Hao with disdain. Wang Hao, you can't carry anything on your shoulders or lift anything. What the hell are you staying for? You want Shen Yu to protect you, don't you? What a useless piece of trash. Li Shui died because of you. A flash of malice flickered in Wang Hao's eyes. He must hate me to the core. I had directly exposed his weakness. How could he still maintain an image of being responsible? He looked at me with deep affection, his tone firm. I know I'm useless, but I can carry your backpack for you. I can hold an umbrella for you. I can take a bullet for you. I can't rest easy with you going alone. I shook my head. I don't need it. Wang Hao looked guiltily toward the direction of the convoy. Shen Yu, because of one wrong move I made, so many people in the convoy died. Now you're staying behind to find gasoline because of me. I don't have the face to leave with the convoy. You know what kind of person I am. If I go with the convoy, I might survive. But can you bear to let me live the rest of my life in regret? I frowned, really wanting to shoot this scumbag dead. Why is he desperately trying to curry favor with me now? He wanted to smooth over our conflict so I would protect him. Wang Hao looked at me with an incredibly affectionate gaze and choked up, saying, Xiaoyu, if you die, I will regret it for the rest of my life. Although Wang Hao disgusted me, most people in the convoy believed he was making a life-or-death sacrifice. If he stayed behind, he would probably die. There were actually some people who were moved by my husband. Shen Yu, just let him stay and make it up to you. So Wang Hao isn't such a jerk after all. Even though Shen Yu treated him like that, he still loves her. Wang Hao said a lot more to the team leader about staying behind to find gasoline and atone for his mistakes. The team leader, naturally unable to force him to leave, reluctantly agreed. The captain left us a car and over a dozen guns before leading the team away. After the convoy left, Wang Hao turned to me. Wang Hao asked me, "Xiaoyu, do you blame me for making this crazy decision?" I smiled and said, "I don't blame you." A smile curled at the corner of Wang Hao's mouth, as if he thought I was moved by him. In reality, I had a new plan. His staying wasn't entirely a bad thing. I opened the car door and sat in the driver's seat. "Everyone, get in. I'll take you to find some gasoline." Big Eye and his 6 companions immediately rushed to the back of the car. Wang Hao was a bit slow to react, and there was no room left in the back, only the passenger seat remained. Cold sweat broke out on Wang Hao's forehead. I said, "What are you standing there like an idiot for?" My husband glanced at me, then looked back, his expression somewhat troubled. When it comes to riding in a car, the passenger seat is the most dangerous position in the vehicle aside from the driver's seat. In the past, when I was fleeing with him, I never let him sit in the passenger seat. I didn't spare his feelings at all. "You're such a coward. What's the point of staying?" Big Eye sneered. "What a wimp." Everyone also laughed at Wang Hao. Wang Hao quickly tried to cover himself up. "That's not what I meant. I just don't want you to drive. The driver's seat is dangerous. There are plenty of men here." I opened the car door. "Then you drive?" Wang Hao was dumbfounded and got into the passenger seat. No, you'd better drive." Big Eye and the others all laughed. I sneered at him. "My life is a life. But theirs aren't, right?" Wang Hao's eyes were filled with humiliation. Through my peripheral vision, I could see his clenched fists. At the same time, I didn't forget to observe Big Eye and his crew. I could see them exchanging glances, plotting how to deal with me. They have long coveted the supplies on me and have been planning to kill me to take them for themselves. Along the way, they have tried to ambush me several times, but I cut them down every time. This time, they could have followed the convoy, but I forced them to stay behind to find gasoline, which made them hate me even more. If given the chance, they will definitely kill me. I have memories from my past life, so I know where the gasoline is. We need to pass through a street controlled by vagrants. I could take a detour, but it would be too far, and I still needed to use this street to take out Big Eye's men. After I told Big Eye and the others that there were people ahead, I charged straight into the street without waiting for their approval. Relying on my solid skills, I made it through the street. Afterward, all the windows on our car were shattered. 2 of Big Eye's men were dead, and Wang Hao had wet his pants in fear. Wang Hao said emotionally, "Xiaoyu, how are you driving? Are you trying to kill me?" Big Eye lost his brother and held even more resentment toward me, but he held it in. When we arrived, it was an abandoned gas station. I knew there were zombies inside, but I didn't tell Big Eye. Big Eye led people inside to search for things, and 2 more of his men died. Now Big Eye has only 2 men left. We loaded the gasoline, and just as we were about to get into the car, Big Eye finally showed his fangs, pressing a gun against my head. "Shen Yu, thank you. If I take this gasoline back, I'll be the big hero of the safe zone." I sneered. "I should be the one thanking you, right?" Big Eye clicked off the safety of his gun and said disdainfully, "Still talking tough when death is at your doorstep. 3 guns aimed at you, no matter how skilled you are. You can't dodge all 3, can you?" I said confidently. "Did you forget someone?" "Someone said they'd take a bullet for me." Big Eye looked at my husband, who was standing there frozen and terrified, and burst into laughter. "You mean this useless piece of trash?" Big Eye aimed his gun at Wang Hao, while the other 2 henchmen kept their guns trained on me. Wang Hao was so terrified that he fell to his knees and begged for mercy. "Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Big Eye, I have no grudge against you." Big Eye sneered at me and said, "Shen Yu, a man's mouth is full of lies, especially when it comes to a useless piece of trash like him. Who else were you counting on? Him?" Big Eye pulled a gun from his waist, tossed it in front of Wang Hao, and said mockingly, "Pick up the gun. Kill this bitch." and I'll let you go." Wang Hao's eyes were filled with fear as he kept waving his hands. "No, no, no." Big Eye threatened Wang Hao with the gun. "Hurry up, or I'll kill you right now." Wang Hao's body trembled like a leaf, and he reluctantly picked up the gun, his eyes full of struggle. Although he was weak, he was absolutely cold-blooded enough. He wanted to shoot and kill Big Eye, so it would be 2 against 2, and we might not lose. If he killed me, he would be alone, a lamb to the slaughter. I shouted, "Wang Hao, if you're a man, kill Big Eye now." Bang! Big Eye fired a shot at my husband's feet. "You dare point a gun at me? Try it, you little brat. Let's see whose gun is faster." My husband was scared out of his wits, trembling as he pointed the gun at me. Shocked and furious, I said to Wang Hao, "Wang Hao, you actually want to kill me? When you insisted on staying this morning, weren't you full of courage and responsibility? You kept saying you'd take a bullet for me, yet now you've turned into this just because Big Eye pointed a gun at you. So, everything you said earlier was just a load of crap." Big Eye sneered. "Shen Yu, I have to say, you're such a smart person, but you're a hopeless romantic. You can't trust a single word a man says, let alone a heartless loser like him." Wang Hao's face flushed with embarrassment, his body trembling as he stubbornly retorted, "That's not true. I'm not a loser, and I'm not afraid to die. Shen Yu, if you hadn't treated me that way before, I would have saved you even if it meant dying this time. But now you don't love me anymore, so there's no need for me to be sentimental. My life still has purpose. I haven't achieved my dreams or realized my value in life. So, I have no choice but to sacrifice you." I sneered. "Wang Hao, do you even believe what you're saying? You say you love me, and now these thugs want you to personally kill the woman you once loved. Do you have no backbone at all?" After hearing this, Wang Hao realized how ridiculous his words were, but he still refused to admit it. His face twisted, and he said emotionally, "Shen Yu, shut up. You know I don't like all this fighting and killing. Now Big Eye has 3 men here, and we only have 2. Either way, you're going to die. Since you're going to die anyway, why not do me a favor? If you still love me, then when I kill you, you shouldn't complain." I was utterly disgusted by Wang Hao's shamelessness. I curled the corner of my mouth and said, "All right, stop explaining. Just admit you're a coward and that you never loved me." "Okay." Wang Hao was stunned. If he said something like that, his persona would completely collapse. Even if Big Eye didn't kill him, he would spread what Wang Hao said. Big Eye grew impatient and cursed. "Wang Hao, just give her a straight answer, won't you?" Wang Hao hesitated. Big Eye warned with a glare. "Don't you dare act. Tell me the truth. I've been itching to take you down for a long time. I may trick women myself, but I'm not as shameless as you." Big Eye pointed the gun at Wang Hao, who was forced to say, "Shen Yu, I never loved you. Everything I said before was just to protect my reputation. I'm a cowardly piece of trash. Is that enough?" After saying this, Wang Hao looked at me with resentment, as if blaming me for making him say such humiliating words. I curled my lips and glanced at the dashcam in the car. My goal was achieved. Big Eye said to Wang Hao, "Send her off." I said, "You're the one who should be sent off." Big Eye glared at me fiercely. "Bitch, are you out of your mind after finding out you've been fooled by this loser?" I raised 3 fingers. Big Eye frowned. "What do you mean?" I withdrew 1 finger. Big Eye started to panic. "Wang Hao, kill her." Wang Hao was stunned, seeing the situation change, and hesitated uncertainly. I flipped off Big Eye. Big Eye cursed Wang Hao as useless and pointed the gun at me. I withdrew my finger, and Big Eye staggered, shaking his head. He tried to shoot, but his vision was blurry and he was seeing double. Big Eye bent his legs, about to kneel, and saw his 2 subordinates also go limp. When he realized that Wang Hao and I were completely fine, he stared in shock and angrily said, "You bitch. You played dirty." I had poisoned the car and timed the onset of the poison precisely. I kicked the gun out of his hand, while his 2 subordinates prepared to shoot at me. After being poisoned, their movements slowed. and I easily took them out with my gun. Wang Hao knelt on the ground, struggling to keep himself from falling asleep, looking up at me with a pitiful expression. Shen Yu, please don't kill me. I was wrong. I shouldn't have set my sights on you. As long as you don't kill me, I'll be your servant once we get back to the safe zone. And I have connections there, with your abilities. I can even get you an official position. I shook my head and said, to be honest, the reason I kept you all alive is so I could kill you. Big Eye was stunned, then spoke with hatred. So you planned to kill us from the very beginning. This is murder of civilians. If the safe zone finds out, you won't get off easy. I sneered. You're about to die, and you're still pretending to be a good person. Don't you know what you've done yourself? Before the apocalypse, you and your brothers had at least 10 murders on your hands. After the neighborhood was locked down, you ruled the roost in your building, abused women, slaughtered people, stole everyone's resources. Later, when the neighborhood was unsealed, you started a human trafficking business, selling innocent people to private armed groups. To make money, you blocked rescue efforts in safe zones, hijacked convoys. Every one of Big Eye evil deeds, if exposed, would have the safe zone label him a bandit. But once he got to the safe zone, with his connections, black could be turned into white. In my past life, I had friends and family who died at the hands of Big Eye. I can't let them return to the safe zone alive. This life would be no different. Upon hearing this, Big Eye burst into loud laughter, his expression wild and manic. Bitch, I didn't expect you to know so many of my secrets. You definitely won't let me go. Since you refuse to. Big Eye suddenly turned bloodshot. Just then, a gunshot rang out. Watch out! Wang Hao shielded me as a bullet was fired, struck right between Big Eye's brows. He died before he could even draw the gun from his waist. Wang Hao asked me with concern, Xiaoyu, are you alright? With my reflexes, there was no way Big Eye's deathbed counterattack could have hurt me. His hypocrisy was nauseating. I sneered. Wang Hao, thank you so much. Wang Hao's cheeks flushed slightly, and he gritted his teeth, saying, Xiaoyu, I know you're mad at me for pointing a gun at you, but I had no choice. He said angrily, you clearly poisoned them, yet you didn't tell me. Were you testing me? Let me tell you, love doesn't need that kind of test. There's no creature in this world that isn't afraid of death. What you did goes against human nature. I smiled and said, you're right. No one in this world isn't afraid of death. But there are men who, for the woman they love, are willing to give their lives. Since you're not that kind of man, don't keep talking about love and responsibility. Since you're afraid of death, don't act like you're willing to die in front of others. Don't you think you're being pretentious? You, my husband gritted his teeth, his face twisted with rage. Then, he turned around and accused me. Love is mutual. Think about how you treat me. What gives you the right to demand that I sacrifice my life to save you? That night, you saw that gay man humiliate me with your own eyes. And you did nothing. You know I value my dignity and integrity above all else. You wanted to destroy me. I laughed out of sheer anger. I don't love you at all, so I didn't help you. If you have any dignity, go die. What are you yelling at me for? A flicker of malice flashed in Wang Hao's eyes as he shook his head and said, Xiaoyu, you're speaking out of anger again. You clearly love me to the bone, yet you dare not admit it. Do you really think I'm afraid of death? No. If it weren't for the sense of responsibility in my heart, I would have wanted to die long ago. You need me. This society needs me. I cannot die. I know my body is already tainted, but my soul remains pure. Just now, I truly wanted to kill Big Eye and save you. That was on a soul level. The reason I didn't do it was due to physical fear. What shamelessness! I asked bluntly. You've explained so much. What exactly are you trying to do? What's your goal? Wang Hao quickly shook his head. You've misunderstood. I was just explaining that I didn't mean to do that just now. My face fell. If you don't speak up now, you'll lose your chance. Wang Hao's eyes were filled with panic, and then he said with an embarrassed look, it's like this. I want you to do me a small favor. I frowned. Wang Hao said, It's just a small favor. Let me take the credit for finding the gasoline this time. I remained silent, and he continued. You know, because of the jumping off the car incident, my reputation has been ruined. If I were just barely getting by, I wouldn't care. But the key is that I still have to realize my ambition of saving the people and changing the world. Whether in the past or the present, reputation is a person's first impression. No matter how capable you are, if your reputation is bad, others won't truly trust you. So I have to make sure my reputation is a good one. I sneered. You're dreaming. Wang Hao flew into a rage. Shen Yu, don't be ungrateful. Do you really think I need your little credit? A person of such high moral integrity as myself, would I be afraid of a bad reputation? I'm just giving you a way out. I cast a contemptuous glance at Wang Hao and got straight into the car. Wang Hao followed and got in, but chose the safer back seat. Your silence means you agree, right? I still didn't say a word, occasionally glancing at the dashcam in the car. He snorted coldly. Why didn't you just give in earlier? You had to wait until things blew up before you'd lower your head. What if I really didn't want you anymore? Where would you go to cry? I cursed him as an idiot in my mind, but nodded on the surface. Those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. Isn't Wang Hao most concerned about his reputation? This time, I'm going to ruin his name and bring him to disgrace. On the way back, we were ambushed by the Reaper Syndicate. Relying on memories from my past life, I managed to escape unscathed. Just before the car was about to reach the prearranged location, he switched places with me. When Wang Hao drove the car carrying me to the edge of the desert, all the members of the convoy were thrilled. Heroes! Heroes! Everyone shouted at us. Look, it's Wang Hao driving. They found the gasoline. So cool. It turned out that after we split up, the convoy encountered the vanguard of the Reaper Syndicate. Although they managed to shake them off, they lost some supplies in the process. Without the gasoline we brought back, everyone would have died in the desert. After getting out of the car, Wang Hao began to loudly boast about how he had taken me to search for gasoline in Jinjing. He took all the credit for himself, claiming every bit of the achievement. When others asked why Big Eye and his group hadn't returned, he replied that Big Eye had ill intentions toward me, and he shot him to protect me. Everyone praised his bravery, and many people's attitudes toward him began to change. They asked me if it was true, and I remained silent, tacitly confirming Wang Hao's statement. Wang Hao instantly became the hero of the convoy. Even the team leader did not hold back in praising Wang Hao, saying that after returning to the safe zone, he would report this matter to the higher-ups. After we returned to the safe zone, I was placed on trial. Just like in my past life, I was reported for harming the people. Standing before the tribunal, I faced the judge. The judge looked at me coldly. Shen Yu, during the convoy's return to the safe zone, you repeatedly harmed the people, especially killing the Big Eye gang and their associates. Do you admit your guilt? I shook my head. Nonsense. Wang Hao looked at me with disgust. Shen Yu, the evidence is solid now. What else do you have to say for yourself? After returning to the safe zone, a reckoning was held. Wang Hao's merits offset his faults, and once he secured his footing, he quickly overturned the earlier claims that Big Eye had plotted against me. Instead, he twisted the story, saying that I had seduced Big Eye in order to take sole credit, setting off a conflict between him and Big Eye like a snipe and clam locked in a struggle. Just like in my past life, he bribed a few members who returned with us, and they insisted that I had a grudge against Big Eye because I refused to let him rob my supplies. They also falsely accused me of extorting them when they were scavenging for supplies in the city ruins. Along this journey, I have been cold and ruthless, making countless enemies. Those who hate me seize every opportunity to list my various crimes. For a moment, I was pointed at by 1,000 accusing fingers. My expression betrayed neither joy nor anger. They are wronging an innocent person. Wang Hao said with righteous indignation. If you're innocent, the truth will eventually come out. No one would accuse you without a reason. Your actions along this journey have already stirred up public outrage. When Wang Hao said the exact same words as in my past life, I directly pulled a USB drive out of my pocket. I have evidence. The judge's eyes lit up. Bring it up. Wang Hao was dumbfounded. What is that? Soon, the video on the USB drive was played in front of everyone. The recording showed everything. Big Eye trying to kill me. Threatening Wang Hao. Wang Hao pointing a gun at me in terror. The poison taking effect. My account of Big Eye's crimes. And Wang Hao's shameless demand to take credit for finding the gasoline. Now there are 3 people on Big Eye side, and only 2 on ours. Either way, you're going to die. Since you're going to die anyway, why not let me benefit from it? Shen Yu, I never loved you. Everything I said before was just to protect my reputation. I'm a cowardly loser. Is that enough? It's just a small favor. Let me take the credit for finding the gasoline this time. Whether in the past or the present, reputation is a person's first impression. No matter how capable you are. If your reputation is bad, others won't truly trust you. So I have to make sure my reputation is a good one. Wang Hao's carefully cultivated image of integrity, responsibility, detachment, and selflessness collapsed completely. In the video, he was nothing but a cowardly, cold-blooded, and utterly irresponsible man. After watching the video, Wang Hao broke down and shouted at the judge, "Turn it off." No. He rushed forward to pull out the USB drive, but I kicked him away and said, "Dare to do it but not own up. Are you even a man?" Wang Hao's face twisted with rage as he cursed, "Shen Yu, you wretched woman, you'll die a miserable death." I said, "Your Honor, he contributed nothing to finding the gasoline, and his jumping from the vehicle caused dozens of deaths. Can he be sentenced now?" The judge nodded in approval. Wang Hao exclaimed frantically, "No. Wait, don't yet. Let me ask you, Shen Yu, what proof do you have that Big Eye is the kind of heinous person you claim? How can you prove he committed those murders and arsons? If you can't prove it, then you're harming the innocent." I sneered. Whether Big Eye is a villain or not, the fact remains that you jumped out of the car on your own and caused the deaths of dozens of people. But since you asked, I'll satisfy your curiosity. I said to the judge. The evidence is in the second document. Soon, the evidence of Big Eye gang's crimes appeared on the big screen. The evidence included video call records and photos. Enough to have Big Eye killed 10 times over. Wang Hao exclaimed in shock. Where did you find this evidence? Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. In my past life. Because there was no complete record of Big Eye's crimes. Wang Hao insisted that I had harmed the innocent. This was like a thorn deeply embedded in my heart. After being reborn, I asked my close friend, who held an important position in my military camp, to search for evidence of Big Eye's crimes. With irrefutable evidence. Shouts erupted from the crowd, and everyone acknowledged my innocence. Meanwhile, Wang Hao was condemned by all. Wang Hao, you worthless piece of trash. Deceiving women's feelings, how dare you still show your face in this world? Selfish and cowardly. You call yourself a man. A useless parasite living off others. You've caused so many deaths, you must pay with your life. No matter how desperately Wang Hao tried to explain, his reputation was utterly ruined. The judge sentenced him to life imprisonment. Due to my contributions in leading the team to search for gasoline and escape, I became a role model in the safe zone and gained the favor of the safe zone's senior leaders. I started as the deputy captain of a search and rescue team, and quickly rose through the ranks to captain, squadron leader, and battalion commander. Wang Hao came to me several times, asking me to plead for him. Once, while escorting a group of prisoners to jail, I happened to see him. He had been engaged in high-intensity physical labor in prison for a long time and had long since lost his appearance. At just 30 years old, he looked like he was 60. He was extremely emotional when he saw me. "Xiaoyu, did you come specifically to see me? I knew you cared about me." Thinking of my own experience in prison in my past life, I said coldly, "Life in prison is tough, isn't it?" Upon hearing this, Wang Hao's face fell. "Tough? This place is simply unfit for human habitation." I sneered. "If you know it's tough, then figure out a way to re-establish your detached and morally superior persona. Tell your cellmates about your ambitions and aspirations. Let them be your pawns while you take the credit from behind. After Wang Hao entered prison, relying on the information gap caused by the lack of news circulation inside, he tried to maintain his detached and morally superior persona, but it simply didn't work here. Wang Hao got beaten up in prison and didn't even dare to let out a peep. My words seemed to remind him of some unpleasant memories, and his body trembled violently. Xiaoyu, stop talking. I was wrong. I really was wrong. Please put in a good word for me with the higher-ups. I don't want to stay here anymore. Wang Hao said with deep emotion. It's because I love you so much that love turned into hate. I was angry. I love you that much. Yet you abandoned me and got in the car yourself. That night, you clearly saw me being humiliated but didn't lend a hand. On the judgment platform, I really didn't mean to report you. I just wanted to teach you a lesson. I never meant to cause any real harm. I sneered. So because you love me, you hurt me, and I'm supposed to forgive you. What a domineering logic. Don't you realize your persona has collapsed? Do you think I'm still buying that act of yours? Wang Hao knelt down and begged me. Xiaoyu, for the sake of our years of marriage and the fact that I was your first love. When I heard the word first love, a flash of hatred flickered in my eyes. A scumbag like you deserves to die. Wang Hao took out a letter and said, Fine. I deserve to die. I don't need you to plead for me. Just help me deliver this letter. Okay. I glanced at the recipient and was surprised to find it was the daughter of a powerful official in the safe zone. I thought that after Wang Hao's persona collapsed, the powerful official's daughter would surely despise him to the core, but I never expected he would still dare to take the initiative to contact her. Could he have been in contact with the powerful official's daughter ever since entering prison? Otherwise, he would never have suddenly asked me to deliver a letter. I shook my head and said, Don't even think about it. Wang Hao knelt and grabbed the hem of my clothes. I'm begging you. For Mom's sake. Can you do it? You're not worthy of mentioning her. My eyes were icy cold. Wang Hao said humbly, Just this once. After this, we'll be done with each other, and I'll never bring up my mom in front of you again. Can you do it? In my past life, he took advantage of my promise to his mother and hurt me in every way possible. In this life, he was still exploiting his mother's memory. If it weren't for wanting to see what was written in the letter, I would really want to kill Wang Hao. I said, Fine. You said it. I took the letter out of the prison. After returning home, I opened the letter. After reading it, I was completely stunned. In the letter, Wang Hao poured out his grievances, saying that prison life was extremely painful, and thanking the wealthy young lady for her care, grateful that she still treated him as a friend even after he was imprisoned. This letter was very strange, seemingly saying a lot of nonsense that both of them already knew. It was very formal, leaving no room for anyone to find fault. The letter was too carefully worded to be innocent. I suspected it concealed something. Otherwise, there would have been no reason to send it. I took the letter to a close friend who worked at the military base. After testing it, she found that Wang Hao had used a chemical solution to conceal a second layer of writing. Wang Hao wrote using the chemical solution that he was in prison and had planned how to escape. He needed the heiress to arrange for someone to meet him in advance. He indicated that I had always wanted to harm him, and if I weren't taken care of beforehand, I would definitely interfere with his escape plan. I saw a line in the letter that instantly made my blood boil. He said, Miss Yi, you don't need to worry about whether I will regret this decision in the future. After being imprisoned, I thought a lot. A true warrior dares to face the pain in his heart, dares to let go of the past that can no longer be salvaged. Let those who hurt me become mere passers-by in my life, while I move forward, pursuing my own glory and honor, pursuing my true love. I love you, Miss Yi. After meeting you, I feel more and more that Shen Yu's life or death is insignificant compared to my lifelong devotion to you. Fine. Wang Hao, you really have no shame at all. If we're going to elope, then so be it. But to kill me before we even run away. Since you're so ruthless, don't blame me for being merciless. In the end, I still handed the letter over to the powerful official's daughter, but I also threw in a USB drive as a bonus. The USB drive contained footage of Wang Hao being humiliated on the journey and later degraded by more than a dozen sadistic inmates in exchange for food. I did not know how Wang Hao had managed to rehabilitate his image in front of the powerful official's daughter, but no one would tolerate being mocked and exploited that way. Another video was even more damning. Wang Hao was lying on the prison bed, boasting to his cellmates about how he had gotten the powerful official's daughter. "That slut came to see me the other day. I told her I'd been wronged these past couple of days. And she took off her clothes to help me cool off. It almost killed me with pleasure. Can any of you get me a camera? I'll get you some bed photos of her." After watching the video, the wealthy heiress flew into a rage, feeling that she had been deceived both physically and emotionally. She wished she could rush to the prison and tear Wang Hao to pieces. At my suggestion, she turned his escape plan into a trap. On the day Wang Hao escaped from prison, the wealthy heiress not only failed to arrange for someone to assist him but instead tipped off the prison guards in advance to set up an ambush. After the prison guards caught Wang Hao, they beat him half to death. The heiress arranged for dozens of men to torture Wang Hao to death. When I learned of Wang Hao's death, I felt relief down to my bones. In my past life, Wang Hao caused my death. In this life, I sent him to his death with my own hands. After Wang Hao's death, I comforted the wealthy heiress to forget that scumbag Wang Hao and embrace a new life. By helping the wealthy heiress, I pulled myself back from the brink, regained confidence in life, and became close friends with her. The senior leaders in the safe zone valued me even more. I completed one mission after another, rescuing groups of refugees back to the safe zone, fulfilling the life value Wang Hao had always talked about. Toxic people are unavoidable. The only way to protect yourself is to recognize them early, cut ties decisively, and walk away before they destroy your life.